Hey guys, Kev here, and I want to talk about the Cavol knives Amuse. So this is a knife that recently came out from Cavol Knives. You guys may know them from some other releases recently. This is one I own that I really love. This is the Denka, designed by Tiguas, and I want to correct a statement I made in the unboxing of this knife. I thought this was designed by Tiguas, but it's actually designed by Rock, Paper, Scissors Hanks. And I did not know that. I apologize to Rock, Paper, Scissors Hanks. That was my fault. I did not see a maker's mark anywhere on here, so I just guessed. And for some reason, I thought I saw a cross post from Cavol and Tiguas about this knife, but it must have been Rock, Paper, Scissors Hank, and I just took a brief look at the logos and just thought it was. And then the design language is kind of crazy, so I just thought maybe it was a Tiguas design. So I do apologize for that. I was wrong. I did put a little note on the unboxing. It wasn't like just that knife I unboxed, so hopefully it's not too big of a deal. And yeah, so anyway, they also have this knife, the Denka. They have one called the Bucardo. They have the Cage. And now they have another one, I believe, called the Shimo, I believe it's called. I have that one coming to check out. And I'm going to pull up the website here so I can give you guys pricing. They do have a new website. So if you guys previously have looked at their website, it was a bit tricky to navigate and not very user-friendly. So they now have a Shopify website, cavolknife.com. And yeah, it's called the Shimo, the new one from Tiguas. But anyway, this one here is the Amuse. It comes in two versions. This version right here, which has sort of a bronze blasted look to it with brass accents. I do believe it's titanium, just anodized brass or bronze. It looks very good. Feels good as well. You have a stonewash blade. That's for a reason. Obviously, you know, stonewash looks good, but it's also because this knife is meant to be used in the kitchen. So stonewash obviously makes sense. Then they have another version that has a black blade on it. I don't know if it's black wash. I'm just going to double check that real quick if possible. Both of these are $314 on their website. The black one has, so it's a black scale, and then has the same sort of brass accents and hardware. It has a black blade, and then these sort of stripes right here, these milling lines, those are like anodized gold or whatever the hardware is. It's matching that brass, bronze, gold look on the hardware. Let me see, tech specs. Here we go. So it just says stonewashed finish. I don't know why it's not telling me what the blackwash finish is, but yeah, they call it a chef-led design, and I've never heard that before, but I guess it just means a chef designed it, basically. It is M390 at 58 to 60 HRC, so it's a little bit low on the HRC, to be honest. I'd like to see that at, you know, 60 to 62, but standard overseas is usually 59 to 61 at least. You know, 58 to 60 is a bit low. I don't know if they did that on purpose. No, the Denka is also listed at 58 to 60. Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. I'd like to see it at a higher HRC. But anyway, $314 on their website. Comes in two versions. And yeah, so that's some specs for you. I guess I could actually list some specs they give as well. Since I'm here, it is an 8.46 overall knife. So if I take the Mash V2 here and put it side to side, you're going to be looking at about 7.5 to 7.6 on the Mash, something like that. So you can see the size difference there. You have, what else do we have here? Something a little bigger maybe. I don't have much in a... Oh, you know what? I'm carrying the EMP EDC Relative, which is a, I believe, 8-inch overall knife. 3.5-inch blade. So it's larger than that as well. So 8.45 overall. You're looking at a 3.85 blade length. It does not feel that large, honestly, to me. That's sort of surprising. Close length is 5.11 inches. You do have this part that kind of sticks up high above where the blade sort of ends. So it probably is longer than it normally would be on a you know, a more standard design, I guess, if that makes sense. 4.62 ounces is also surprising because it feels light. So they're spreading that weight out really well on it. Handle materials, titanium, 6ALV 4V, obviously. And then pocket clip is titanium as well, obviously. Stainless screws. So the hardware is actually stainless. You obviously have a steel insert as well. It is a frame lock with ceramic bearings, and rock, paper, scissors. Hank is the designer. And then blade width is 1.54 inches. So this right here from edge to spine. 0.15 on the blade thickness. It is, you know, on the thicker side for stock. And 0.55 handle width. It doesn't feel quite that thick, but, you know, the contouring and everything, it makes sense. And it's a pretty tall blade, so that 0.15 comes down to a relatively thin edge down here. I'd venture to guess it's, you know, right around 18 to 20. We can measure this bad boy up. See what we get here. $16, $18, $19, and then 15 to 16. I don't know, it's kind of jumping around a little bit. It's hard with calipers, but that's kind of what I was figuring, somewhere around 18 thousandths, which I think is really good for that stock, but it's such a tall blade, right? It comes down to that. Okay, that's enough of the specs and whatnot. Let's get into my thoughts. So aesthetically, obviously this thing is gnarly looking. It's not really my style at all, right? Like, I like sheep's foot blades, but it kind of reminds me of the horn from Kaiser on the blade. Then you have this really big oval hole or elliptical hole, whatever you want to call it, the hump back here. Just not really my style at all, and I don't think I would buy one of these personally. But after using it and experiencing it, I totally understand the point of this knife and what they were going for. The functionality is really cool. I would love to see some people like Neves, Stasa23, Cedric and Ada, Pete. I would love to see some people like that test this guy out because, you know, just doing some cut testing on different materials and all that stuff. I'd love to get their thoughts on the ergonomics and everything. And that's something that Cavol Knives sort of emphasized to me. They asked me, they said, when you do your review, could you put in some cutting footage? Because it's a chef-led design. It's meant to be used in the kitchen, and we want to kind of illustrate that. So I actually did some cutting with this. My wife was kind enough to record it. I actually was setting up in the kitchen, and she came in. She's like, do you want me to just hold that? So there's a little bit of banter between us. It's only a minute or two long, the video, but I'm going to cut to that right here so you guys can see the cutting of this knife, because it's really cool in the kitchen. I think the way they designed this, they did a fantastic job, and they really nailed what they were going for, I think. And I'll get into that after the video, but I'm going to cut to that real quick. So I'm just going to give myself a little cue here. All right. That was fucking loud. Seeds and shit. Oh! Did I get you?
No.
Am I doing this right?
Kev.
What? I'm curious. Is this how you cut up apples?
I cut them.
I do think the whole point is that your knuckles are supposed to be like up, but they're still smacking the thing, so I'm still like hitting here, but it's not as bad as it would be. Like, so the difference is with this, if I cut down, I kind of cut all the way through before my knuckles hit. If I use this, I'm already on the ground and then I'm like shoving through. So you'd have to hold it like this, which is fine. But this, whoops, I feel like this would also be good for that because you got this big hole you can pinch and then, yeah, I'm a fucking chef. Do this all day.
Got
anyway,
a stem in there.
So pinch, and this grip works. That's all I got on that. You can hit stop. All right, I'm back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I mean, I know it was real quick, but it shows how, one, how stupid I am, how inexperienced I am in the kitchen. I am not somebody who cooks or does any of that kind of stuff, and it's mostly just because it's not something I enjoy all that much. I've bought multiple kitchen knives to try to get into it, and I just never do. It's like finding the time and then knowing what I want to cook. Like, I'm just not a foodie, so it's hard for me to really care, you know what I mean? I just want to fill my belly up and move on. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. But what I think it illustrates is that even a rook, even a novice in the kitchen can utilize this thing and look semi-decent at what they're doing, right? Now, I was just cutting an apple, but it shows how in the you know, ergonomic setup that they designed this for, right? When you hold it in this grip, when you're standing at a table, the blade is hitting the table before your knuckles hit, right? And what that allows you to do is get through full cuts without slamming your knuckles into the table. And I even showed my Divo Mash V2 because I had it in pocket that night, and I showed the same thing, right? When I get to the edge with this, I'm already bottoming out on my knuckles before this ever touches the edge, right? Like, I even have another half an inch before I'm getting to the blade under my fingers. I know it's hard to see here. That's why I recorded it the way I did. But here, I'm literally on the ground or table, and my knuckles are just smacking, right? So it's really cool how that was designed, and that's why it has this big hump here and everything to bring that edge down lower. It's not unique in that sense. There's other knives that do this for sure. I'm trying to remember the one that kind of has like it's like here and then it comes up and then the knife comes back here. I'm trying to think of what that is, but I can't picture it right now. Sorry. But to me, the thing that really shines on this knife ergonomically is the pinch grip. I think they designed this hump to like perfectly palm. Like, this just feels so natural to me. And you guys saw me in that video. I'm just like I just felt like a chef. I suck at chopping and mincing and all that stuff. And I was just like, give me more. Like, I just wanted to keep chopping. And that's a sign, I think, of a good knife in the kitchen, right? When you want to use it more. So you guys know I'm not a cutting expert or anything like that. So take everything I showed you and everything I just said with a grain of salt. But I truly believe this had a purpose in design, and they nailed it. They truly nailed it. Does it take away from the aesthetics a little bit? Yeah, sure. I think it does. It's not a beautiful knife. You know, and maybe to somebody it is, but you know, the sort of humpback of Notre Dame thing going on here, that giant hole, it doesn't lend itself to a beautiful knife. But in the hand, I mean, this pinchable hole, it's just really, really good, guys. I highly recommend you check one of these out if you're somebody who cooks all the time and you like to have a folder on you. You know, like, let's say you like to fidget in the kitchen and whatever, like, you just, this is a really good piece for that, I think. Now, I did cut that apple up. I cleaned the blade after. I didn't have any issues, but I also put Knife Shield on it because this is not my knife. This was sent in by Cavol Knives. I don't know what's happening to it after this review. So I want to make sure it's clean, but they did a really heavy stone wash on this, I think, for that purpose. Now, where I think they could have gone even further, since they really, I mean, they're really driving the chef-led thing here, right? Why not use Van X? Why not use LC200N? Why not use, I mean, they probably can't get Magna Cut, but why not use just one of those really high corrosion-resistant steels for this blade? I think it would have made more sense. Now, M390 is no, slouch in the corrosion resistance category. But in the kitchen, I don't know how much M390 makes sense because it's not very tough, right? And you probably want a tougher edge. I mean, you could hear me kind of banging this thing into the cutting board. I don't see any edge damage. I don't recall feeling anything. It's fine, but like, I only cut an apple, so I hope not. But I think something tougher and more corrosion resistant would have made more sense. Like LC200N, I think, would have been perfect for this. And it does seem like it's something that's available overseas. I mean, we've seen it on Kaisers. We've seen it on some other stuff. So, I don't know. Just a thought. I don't think it's a deal breaker. I just want to mention it. So we talked about aesthetics. We've talked about ergonomics. We've talked about cutting, carry. So I carried this knife, I think, twice, and the carry's fine. I mean, it's what you would expect from a knife that, has this sort of an angle to it. If you put it into, let me just try to get a fresh feel for it. When you put it into your right pocket, the one thing that is nice about it is the way it curves. Because it hooks this way, when you put it into that pocket, it's kind of hooking against the seam of your pants. It's not wanting to push itself out into your pocket and get in your way. It's actually trying to get out of your way, which is kind of nice. There's nothing exposed here. Like, I can just feel that sort of edge termination right there, but I don't actually feel the edge, and I'm kind of pressing in to even do that. So I would not say that that's an issue at all. But I mean, you are going to reach past it, but I think that hump is going to kind of take care of that for you. You're just going to go out here anyway. You're not going to go in this way, right? So it does not feel heavy. I mean, for being almost a 4-inch blade, the 4.62 ounces honestly makes perfect sense to me. And it feels lighter than that to me. I think the balance on this, at least the way it felt in my hand, was very good. Yeah, see, the balance is right here, but that's literally where I'm gripping it. So, sometimes on a knife, you want the balance to be more forward, kind of like up here. But I personally want the balance point to be kind of where my index finger's resting. So if I rest my finger right here, which is where I'm going to grip to do certain cuts, I have a really good balance point right there, right? So I think that makes sense. Now, if you're thinking about this in a tactical scenario, right, we could talk about this. Even though this is meant for the kitchen, I've never heard them reference this as tactical. If you put it into a grip like this, it's okay, right? Like, you have this flat spot right here, so I can land my thumb on this, and you have that big old curve. I think for somebody with like extra large hands, this could be really comfortable in a reverse grip like this, because you'd be taking up more of this space. Your thumb would be kind of like this up here. I think it would feel pretty good. Now, I don't know how well this would work for that, but you can go into this grip, and this is not comfortable in any way. And this is okay, but honestly, the primary grips for this are sort of the straight up and down grips where you're doing this and chopping, or you're doing the pinch grip and chopping, right? I just like to point out all those other grips in case people are at the gas station on Friday night and have an issue. So, carry, cutting, sounds. They're so good. Yeah, the sounds are an 8, maybe 9 out of 10. I mean, this thing really pops, guys. Which leads us into the last category, which is action/fidget factor. Now, when was the last time I got my LaCroix orange here? When was the last time I did a review And we're 20 minutes in, and I haven't mentioned the action one time. To me, that's impressive. That means this knife does something cool, right? It distracted me, right, with the ergonomics and the way it, it's designed. But it also means that I have no issue with the action, right? Because if the action was poor on this and everything else was cool about the ergos and whatever, I'd still be bummed, But the action on this is phenomenal, especially if you're right-handed. It's going to be a lot more manageable because it's a frame lock, right? The detent on this is very good. It's damn near close to giving one of those little pop sounds when it breaks. But it has this giant hole, which, yes, you can stick your finger all the way through. So if you're one of those people who can't handle the big hole knives that, we had some people complain about on the Growler like that, I would avoid this knife. But if you're somebody who can just feel out a design and, figure it out, this is really good. I mean, you just kind of rest your finger like this halfway through or so and then fire it off. Now, I do tend to lock it up on the lock bar when I do that, so you just kind of stay off it and then fire it. Thumb flick is really good as well. The detent's just dialed really well. I have never tried to slow roll it. That's going to be hard because of the lock bar and the size of it. So maybe not for me, for other people maybe. But this reverse flick is just, it's so good. That detent is so crispy. Woo! And then because of the sheer mass of it, it just drops shut. Left-handed, you just kind of rest on the pivot and it fires. But for people who, like me, usually just want to pick the knife up and fire, it doesn't always reliably do that. It really adds to the detent when you put pressure on the lock bar. So you just gotta, I've kind of learned to lean. I'm kind of leaning back when I fire it, and that's how I'm staying off. So it's not like intuitive lefty, but it works really well. I don't think I've ever tried a lefty thumb flick. Yeah, that's really good. Lefty disengage, just slide it over or flick it, get out of the way. You could do the old sideways disengage, let her fall. You just have a lot of options. The lockup is really good here. We're at, maybe 30%, 40%. Lock bar has tension on it because the detent's good, but it's not hard to get out of the way. They give you plenty of access here with this sort of scallop right here. And I usually just do this, let it slowly come down on my nail, and then bang it. Now, it does not have a sharp edge or corner right here. That's something that's really cool. And if you look at kitchen knives, that's something I like about kitchen knives that take that extra detail. Because a lot of kitchen knives have just like a super sharp point right here. And that can be a little uncomfortable if you're like choking up on it or whatever. You might accidentally bump that. But I think the really good kitchen knife makers and companies, they knock this corner down and round it out. And because of that, it doesn't damage your nail when it comes down because it just hits you with that soft corner. And even though it's a heavy blade and everything, it's just not dangerous. It's wonderful, honestly. I think they did a great job with this. The detent on it, location-wise, isn't the earliest, but I've never really had it be an issue like double clutching or anything like that because there's no flipper tab, right? It's happening now because I'm just, trying to show you on camera, but usually I push it until it clears. Now, I don't do this and let it drop because it will hammer down really hard because it's a heavy blade, and I don't, even though it's not hurting, I don't want to like potentially bruise my thumb or anything. So I always kind of have it on an angle and just let it kind of softly drop. And then I let it guillotine after I get there, like that. Centering, dead on, dead nuts, no problem at all. Tip is hidden away, no problem. There's no detent lash. I didn't notice any pivot lash. No, nothing. It's a tank. They did a fantastic job on this knife. I really like it. I want to say I can highly recommend this to anybody who thinks it'd be cool to have something like this for the kitchen or just as an EDC. Maybe this aesthetically appeals to you. It doesn't to me, But I do think it'd be cool to have just for, you know, the kitchen area of the house, or just because it's unique and different and it does something cool and well. You know, it's rare that we have these specific type knives, and I like it when we do and they nail it. You know, it's just good. The clip works really well. It has good retention. It's one of those longer milled clips, but they did it really well. They have that little spot right there that kind of helps retain it, and I had no problem getting it in pocket. So this was a pleasure to review. I'm really glad I got to check this out. Thank you to Cavol Knives. Big shout out to Rock, Paper, Scissors, Hanks. I'm sorry that I got the designer wrong in the unboxing, but all credit goes to them for this design, and they did a great job. Just unique. It's very unique, and I like that. So I will link their Instagram down below, as well as cavolknife.com. That's their new site. I'll link this knife and the website in general for you guys if you want to check it out. $314, M390 titanium. You know, their pricing is, it's not cheap, but I think, you know, I don't think they're making their knives. I think they're making some. I believe that's what they told me. Like, some things are in-house, some things are not. So based on price, it kind of tells me like the cage was made by them, because that's $188. Then you have the Denka and this that are in the $300 range, and the Bucardo that's like $260. So those might all be made by somebody else, and then they have to obviously add their margin onto it and whatnot. So they're a little pricey, this brand in general, I think. But it's a new brand. They have really cool packaging. I'll show you what it comes in. It comes in a box that looks like a shipping container, which is really cool. I showed this before, but just so you know, it comes in this cool box like this. Slides out. Has even like a shipping container thing here. And then the knife sits in there. There's a little slip that sits on top that must have fallen in. There it is. Which has the knife like blown out so you can see the internals. And that all sits like nicely in here. And then on top of that, it actually comes with this hank right here. So you get this kind of giant hank. I don't know if the hanks are made or designed by the same hank company. I don't know. But anyway, it's a very nice package overall. I enjoy this company. I've said it in my original reviews. They're kind of a breath of fresh air. It's a Chinese knife company, but they're doing sort of cool stuff, and I like that. So let me know what you guys think down below. Again, I appreciate it. Cavol Knives, thank you. I'm very excited to check out the Shimo. That'll be the next one on the chopping block for me, so to speak. And yeah, I love you guys. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will catch you later.